Hello, friends. Well, it's the end of the 2018 and coming up on the new year, 2019. Christmas is in a few days, and I'm not sure whether this recording will get to you before that. But there is a deep, for me, interconnectedness, inseparable nature to the Christmas holiday and the sense of embracing a coming year. So for me, the Christmas holiday is the notion of it's about it's festive, it's about love, it's about sharing love with each other, tangibly with presents and many intangible ways through how we cook and share and just enjoy each other, and how we can try to remember that all over the world, all human beings want love, want peace. But we also understand that you can want and love peace, but it's something that has to happen within us. And what the Christmas holiday is saying is, this is the birth of the Christ child. It's an allegory for the mysterious process of the activation of the aware self in us. Not the conscious ego that can teach us or train us to play a musical instrument or improve ourselves in so many ways, but a consciousness that allows us to become witnesses to our behavior, our thinking, our patterns, our reactions, particularly our reactions. So we know that when we react to anything, it's because something inside of us has been triggered. No one outside of us, when we're living a conscious life, is ever responsible for our reaction. That doesn't mean you won't react, but it means that if you do react, you know you can take the time using that awakened Christ child, which gets stronger and becomes the Christ consciousness in us, to be the witness to the sources of reactivity, the sources of self-identification that put you in opposition to other parts within yourselves or opposition to other people. And so as the new year comes upon us, as we've celebrated the allegory of the awakening of this essential consciousness which mediates between our ego self and our transcendent self, between the limitlessness, unwordable, unspeakable nature of the mystery we call God, and that which is the Son of God, but also Son of Man, that which is awakened once we're separate enough to have an ego, and we begin to then have the ability to observe that ego. These two parts of us, the Son of Man, the Son of God, start to live inside of us. And one of the things that Jesus said that I think is so important is that what we do to the least of these, we do to that consciousness. He said, what you do to the least of these, you do to me. So when he speaks me in that way, he's saying, I'm now assuming not my identification as a human on earth, but I'm assuming my identification with this timeless consciousness, this aware self, this inner Christ, the inner Krishna in other traditions, in the Hindu tradition, the Buddha nature in the Buddhist tradition. And he's saying that this consciousness is not just something for us as individuals. This is a consciousness that's living with us all the time. And the least of these things is anything, actually. We have 10 people in my home now, family members of my wife. And last night I was doing the dishes. And how I hold that sponge, that washcloth, how it goes into the dishwasher, that is not just a task, it's a relationship to inanimate objects. Those are very little things, but the inanimate objects of the day, the things you're doing all the time, the little tasks, how you clean your closet, making your bed, it sets a tone inside of you, which then becomes the spaciousness of your embrace of other people. The spaciousness of your embrace of yourself in ordinary actions, in the least of things, is there as a mirror to the spaciousness of yourself that's possible with children, with husband, with wife, with fellow workers, with people of other religions. Right now we have the incredible challenge of so many people being moved from their homes, forced out of their environments of safety, their communities of safety, and becoming asylum seekers or refugees, trying to then be integrated into cultures. And none of us, that integration can't happen if we're borrowing our identities from the security and the community of the past. We have to be willing to open our community, whether we're the ones seeking asylum, whether we're the refugees, or we're the ones receiving them. We have to open our consciousness to the timeless part of our awareness that can witness why we think our community makes us safe and there is better, and therefore is, and just start trusting that deeper capacity of doing what we do to the least of these things, moment by moment, with each other, and making room, because our world is going to be in greater and greater upheaval. And you won't be able to legislate for it. And if you borrow your identity from nationalism and populism and your particular group or sect, all we're going to have is one group fighting another. Every human being is ultimately the CEO of their lives. They're responsible for their lives. Nothing is just done to you from outside. There are horrible circumstances that put us in tremendously difficult situations where the worst of us might be activated because we're scared, because we're unsafe. And everything we can do to make every moment of our living experience safe we make the dishes safe when we do them. We clean the house and make the environment safe inside of us as we do. And we're never the victim of what we have to do. We're never in that situation of, I've got to get this done. It's always, I'm here. What I do to the least of these, I activates and deepens that aware self, that Christ within us, that Krishna within us, that Buddha nature within us, that Messiah within us. And that's what we remember at this time. It's little things, every single moment, that build us stronger and stronger in this spacious heart, this loving presence that becomes literally a transmission from us. And we want to borrow identity from our community because that makes us feel safe. We want to borrow identity from our wounds because that makes us special. We want to borrow identity from our gifts because that makes us feel special. But specialness separates us. Everybody's special when you look through those eyes of the awakened self. Everyone is unique. Everyone is in their otherness. Everyone is doing their best. And we help them do their best when we live with that activated Christ child, that awakened, aware self, Christ consciousness within us. It has nothing to do with being the religion of Christianity. It has to do with an archetype that we celebrate at the Christmas holiday. The awakening of that consciousness in us, which is a total mystery, and takes us out of time and into presence and into our bodies. And as we go deeper, all there is love. And you begin to rejoice. You feel grateful to do the dishes. You feel grateful to take the time to make space for another person. You feel grateful to see a prejudice in you that's setting up a reaction. You say, oh, wow, thank you. Thank you for showing me this to your aware self. And we don't know how long we get to live, but there's no better game in town than to digest everything that's putting you in opposition to anything in the moment. What we do to the least of these things, moment by moment, we're doing to that potential consciousness inside of us. And it forgives us. It doesn't care. It's infinitely patient. But our world has pressure on us now to accelerate our capacity to embrace that consciousness, to embody that consciousness, because we have to help each other. We are our brother's keepers, not just what we do, but in the spaciousness and presence of the field we hold, because you can't teach love and joy, compassion and trust and forgiveness and humility. You have to embody it and transmit it. Everyone can learn it, but it's not mathematics, it's not languages, it's not something simple, relatively simple to teach. So here we are at a time of tremendous self-remembering collectively. Try to remember what it really is about. Take yourself a step deeper. Consecrate yourself in the coming year to embodying that consciousness in the most simple places of life and as best you can in every single relationship. If somebody makes you react, you have an opportunity to find out what you're attached to in your identity and how to relax that, become more spacious. And that is the timeless path. And that is the great gift, because you just start to live more and more in gratitude and joy. The body just celebrates. And there are other things that are important, but for another conversation. At the heart of everything that we can do is this empowerment of our awareness, this empowerment of that mysterious birth of the Christ child, of the aware self, and how it grows and grows and grows stronger and stronger and lets us face more and more adversity with equanimity, with peace. And that's how we ultimately have peace on earth. It only starts with us. And it is work. And it is a joyous work. Think, could you ever been, to be born on this planet, to have a human body, to have this consciousness, to fall in love with love, moment by moment. Sweet. Wonderful holidays and a wonderful, wonderful, blessed New Year.